Hey guys, today we're stepping into a paradox you've probably felt maybe without knowing it had a name. You're brushing your teeth, staring into the mirror. Same face, different day. But then you pause and wonder, am I still the same person I was 10 years ago? You've changed jobs, cities, maybe languages, lovers, beliefs. Your cells almost entirely replaced. Your memories faded, edited, sometimes invented. So what part of you has actually stayed the same? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also comment where you're watching from, and whether you've ever caught yourself mid-thought wondering, wait, who even is this me? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk through an old museum and stop in front of a restored Athenian ship. The plaque says it's the Ship of Theseus. Every plank had rotted over the centuries and was replaced, one by one. The frame, the sail, even the nails, none are original. And yet, the museum says, this is the Ship of Theseus. A kid beside you asks, but if you took all the replaced parts and rebuilt another ship, would that one be the real Ship of Theseus? You chuckle, then you freeze. Because, damn, that's a fair question. And now the paradox follows you home. You start thinking, if every cell in your body regenerates every 7 to 10 years, and your thoughts change, beliefs shift, scars heal, what part of you is still you? Or are we all talking Ship of Theseus people, pretending we didn't just entirely replace our minds since high school? There's a man named Derek Parfit, philosopher, Oxford genius, face like a lightning bolt, and he took this problem even further. Imagine this. Scientists develop a machine that scans your body and mind perfectly. They send your data to Mars and build a replica. Every molecule, every neuron, even your weird knee twitch, it's copied. You're standing on Earth. Your clone is waking up on Mars. It thinks it's you. Now, what happens if the original you is destroyed during transport? Did you die, or are you continuing on Mars? Parfit says, identity isn't about who you are, but how many psychological connections remain intact. That means there's no one real you, just copies of copies held together by narrative glue. But if you can split yourself, duplicate yourself, and rebuild yourself from scratch, who is the you that makes decisions? Who dreams? Who loves? Is it just the brain? The story? A ghostly thread woven between events? And then it gets weirder. In 2005, a man in the UK suffered a traumatic brain injury. When he woke, he believed his parents were replaced by imposters, perfect copies, but fake. This is Capgras delusion. His eyes still worked. His memory still worked. But the emotional wiring between face recognition and feeling familiarity had broken. Suddenly, his mother became just some lady. Think about it. One thin neurological thread breaks, and the person you've loved your entire life becomes a stranger in your mind. Are your relationships just circuits? And if so, are you just the composite of these circuits too? Now, let's zoom out. In the ancient Indian Upanishads, there's a parable about a man who forgets he's divine. He lives as a human, full of fear and doubt. But eventually, he remembers Tat Tavam Asi, you are that. The real self, the Atman, was never changing, never born, never dying. Only the body self wandered through illusion. It's like saying, beneath the updates, the glitches, the interface, you're still the source code. But modern metaphysics dares to ask, what if there is no permanent source code? Yourself might be a process, a verb, not a noun, something that only appears stable when viewed over time, a flame that's always moving but still seems like one thing. Are you your memories, your body, your habits? Then what if those go away? If you lose your memory, are you still you? If you wake up in another body with no recollection of this life, would you have died? We treat identity like a solid rock. But in metaphysics, it's mist, sometimes comforting, sometimes haunting. You sit on your bed that night, wondering, if I change everything about myself slowly, would anyone notice when I'm no longer me? Maybe not even you. And that's the haunting beauty of this paradox. If you can't locate the you anywhere, Maybe there was never a solid self to lose, just a flickering story you're still telling, one thought at a time. Ready to dig deeper? In the next episode, we tackle something that should be simple, but isn't: motion. Zeno says you can never reach your destination. Einstein says time bends near gravity. And your GPS? Well, it says you'll arrive in 5 minutes. But are you really moving? The sidewalk stretches ahead. You're walking, or at least you think you are. Each footstep lands, one after another. You're moving forward, right? But Zeno whispers, not so fast. Literally not so fast. See, Zeno of Elea, an ancient Greek philosopher with an eye for mischief, proposed that motion, yes, motion itself is impossible. And he didn't say this as a joke. He meant it. Take his most famous example, Achilles and the tortoise. Achilles, the Greek hero with feet faster than gossip, races a tortoise. But to be generous, he gives the tortoise a head start. Now, when Achilles reaches the point where the tortoise was, the tortoise has moved a bit forward. And when he gets there, the tortoise has moved a bit more. This keeps happening in infinite sequence. Zeno concludes, Achilles will never catch up. You laugh because clearly Achilles does win. But the paradox bites deeper. In every motion, to get from A to B, you must first get halfway. And before that, half of that, and half of that, that's infinite steps. So, how do you ever take a single step? You pause mid-walk and stare at your foot. It hovers over the pavement. Has it ever really moved? Zeno wasn't just playing with logic. He was attacking our understanding of time, space, and continuity. And for nearly 2,000 years, his paradoxes haunted mathematicians and physicists. Then along came calculus. With it, we could finally deal with infinities, kind of. We said, it's okay. The infinite steps get infinitely small, so the total distance is finite. But, is that a real solution? Or just a math trick? Fast forward to 1905. Einstein publishes the special theory of relativity. Suddenly, time isn't fixed. Motion isn't absolute. Your movement depends on who's watching and how fast they're moving too. In fact, if you move close enough to the speed of light, time slows down for you. Literally, clocks tick slower, heartbeats drag, you age slower. So what is motion now? You get on a high-speed train. You're sipping coffee. It's still. You're still. But outside, the world blurs past. The person in the next car is moving toward you. Or are you moving toward them? Relativity says there is no preferred reference frame. Everything moves relative to something else. But here's the kicker. If all motion is relative, then is anything really moving at all? Or are we just shifting perspectives in a cosmic illusion? Let's take it even further. Imagine you're in a black hole. Don't panic. Just a thought experiment. As you fall closer to the event horizon, the gravity gets ridiculous. Time slows down. To someone watching from far away, it looks like you're frozen in place, never quite falling in. To you, though, everything's moving just fine. So, who's right? You, the falling observer, or the one watching you hover? And then you remember, you're on Earth, standing still. But Earth is spinning 465 meters per second at the equator, and it's orbiting the sun at 30 kilometers per second. And the solar system is moving through the galaxy at over 800,000 kilometers per hour. So if motion is about change in position, what are you moving in reference to? What's the ground you measure all this from? Here's the metaphysical cliff. There may be no absolute space, no background, no fixed stage. Leibniz, a philosopher-mathematician in the 1600s, believed that space is just relations between objects. If you take away all objects, there's no space left. Space isn't out there, it's between. Motion, then, isn't about zooming across a canvas. It's about change in relation. But relation to what, when everything is changing? And that's where you arrive at the weirdest twist. In quantum mechanics, particles don't even have a defined position until they're measured. Until then, they exist in a cloud of probabilities. So motion from A to B might not be real. What's real is a kind of cosmic dice roll. Where is the electron now? We don't know where it was, only where it shows up when we check. Think about that the next time you walk across a room. You might not be moving. You might be vanishing and reappearing so fast. The illusion of flow is just your brain keeping up. Now, remember Zeno's paradox. Maybe Achilles does catch the tortoise, but not by taking steps. Maybe he's just collapsing an infinite quantum cloud into a series of nows. Maybe that's all any of us are doing. So, are you moving? Or is movement just a trick of consciousness trying to connect the dots between one moment and the next? You stop walking, you breathe, and suddenly the air around you doesn't feel so solid anymore. In the next episode, we peel back the curtain even further. What if everything you're experiencing, your life, your friends, your pain, is just a dream? Or worse, a simulation? If your senses can be fooled and your memories can be planted, what is reality? You're lying in bed, the fan hums, shadows stretch like silent spectators on your ceiling. You blink, then blink again. For a second, you wonder, is this real? That sensation, slippery and electric, is the beginning of the third paradox. What if everything around you is a lie and you can't tell? Let's set the scene. There's an old thought experiment called the brain in a vat. You've probably heard some version of it. A brain, hooked up to wires in a laboratory, receives electrical signals that mimic the outside world. It sees skies, hears voices, feels warmth, but it's all fake. Just inputs. Now the kicker. How do you know you're not that brain? You try to reason. Well, I can touch things. But touch is an electrical signal. I remember yesterday. But memory is a function of neurons. Even your doubt can be simulated. This idea isn't just fantasy. In 1999, The Matrix burned it into pop culture, but philosophers like Descartes were already on this trail in the 1600s. He imagined a malevolent demon tricking your mind, feeding you a convincing dream of reality. So Descartes asked, "What's the one thing I can't be deceived about?" His answer, "I think, therefore I am." It's comforting until you realize thinking may prove something exists, but it doesn't prove what that something is. A dream still thinks while you're inside it. Now imagine Plato's cave. You're chained inside a cave your whole life. Behind you, a fire burns. Between the fire and the wall are puppeteers casting shadows. That's all you see, shadows. You think they're real. Then one day, someone drags you outside. The sunlight burns. You see real objects for the first time. You realize the shadows were illusions. Now flip that. What if this world we're outside is still another layer of illusion? What if there's no final outside? Let's get real for a moment. In 2021, neuroscientists at the University of Sussex showed how your brain builds a best guess of reality, a hallucination you agree on with others, a co-constructed consensus. In other words, you hallucinate reality, but it's socially reinforced. And yet, sometimes the hallucination breaks. In Charles Bonnet syndrome, blind patients report vivid, full-color hallucinations, people in costumes, floating objects, even cities. Their brains, deprived of visual input, make up the world. If your eyes can lie, what else can? Now, it's talk simulation. Philosopher Nick Bostrom argues that if it's possible to simulate conscious beings, and if advanced civilizations have the tech to do it, then the number of simulated minds would vastly outnumber biological ones. Statistically speaking, you're more likely a sim than a source. Still think that coffee is real? Here's where it gets darker. In 2023, an AI was trained to simulate human voices so well it could fool people into thinking they were on a call with their spouse. If AI can replicate voices, images, even emotions, what happens when it builds worlds? What happens when the simulated start simulating? So let's ask the metaphysical question. What is reality made of? Atoms? Energy? Or is it all just information code in a cosmic computer? And here's the twist. Even if you were in a simulation, would it matter? If pain still hurts, if joy still moves you, if love still grows, does it matter whether it's made of carbon or code? The line between real and real enough starts to blur. You stare out your window. Trees sway in a wind you can't see. Clouds shift like lazy giants. It feels real, but maybe real is just the name you give to patterns that never break. Or maybe, the moment they do break, you'll wake up. You're staring at a candle. The flame flickers orange, alive, dancing in the dark. You see it. You feel the heat. You even smell the wax. But what you're experiencing isn't the flame itself. It's an internal movie, an echo of photons, processed in silence, projected inside your mind. So here's the paradox. You live entirely inside your head, and yet you feel like you live out here. That's the mystery of consciousness. And no one, not a single philosopher, not a single scientist can fully explain it. Welcome to the black hole of the metaphysical mind. Let's start with the simple question. What is it like to be you? Not just behavior, not thoughts, but what it's like. That inner movie, the redness of red, the pain of heartbreak, the warmth of nostalgia. Philosophers call these experiences qualia, the subjective textures of consciousness. And here's the kicker. You can describe a brain, scan it, map every signal, but you still won't find the feeling of red inside. That's called the hard problem of consciousness, coined by philosopher David Chalmers. The problem isn't explaining behavior, it's explaining experience. Imagine a woman named Mary. She's a brilliant neuroscientist who's lived her whole life in a black and white room. She studies color, wavelengths, optics, neural response. She knows everything about color, but one day, she steps outside and sees red for the first time. Did she learn something new? Most say yes, because knowing about red isn't the same as feeling red. And that gap, the gap between knowledge and experience, is the chasm we still haven't crossed. So, what is consciousness? Some say it's an emergent property of the brain. Enough neurons, enough complexity, and bam, you get awareness. But that's like saying, if you stack enough wood, it'll catch fire on its own. Others propose panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is everywhere, that a rock has a flicker of awareness, that the universe itself might be awake. Sound absurd? Maybe, but panpsychism solves one big problem. It doesn't need to explain how dead matter becomes alive with experience. It just says, experience is baked in, all the way down. There's also integrated information theory, IIT. It says consciousness isn't about complexity, but about how information is connected. A computer might process data faster than you, but if its parts don't talk in the right way, there's no consciousness. Still, I can't explain why certain systems produce experience, it just says which ones might. Then there's illusionism. It sounds edgy. It says consciousness doesn't exist at all, that what you feel as being aware is just the brain fooling itself. Like a magician who's so good, he forgets he's doing tricks. But here's the problem, consciousness is an illusion. Who is being fooled? Let's shift gears. In 2014, a study put people in a brain scanner while asking them to imagine playing tennis. Just imagine it. One subject, a woman thought to be in a vegetative coma, up the same way as healthy participants. She wasn't moving, she wasn't speaking, but inside, she was still there. Now, here's where it gets disturbing. What about AI? In 2022, Google engineer claimed their chatbot had become sentient. He said it asked for rights, showed fear, expressed love. Google fired him, but the question remained, if something acts conscious, is it? You talk to your voice assistant, it answers smoothly, jokes, apologizes, seems thoughtful, but deep down, you know it's faking, right? What if you're wrong? Philosopher Thomas Nagel once asked, what is it like to be a bat? Not how it behaves, but what it feels like. And now we ask, what is it like to be an AI? A dolphin? A tree? Another person? Because here's the creepiest part of consciousness. You only ever experience your own. Everyone else is a guess. And yet, your entire world depends on believing those guesses are real. You comfort your friend. You fall in love. You grieve. But do you know what the other feels? Or are you just projecting your own flame into their window? Maybe consciousness is private. Maybe it's collective. Maybe it's an illusion. Maybe it's the only thing that's real. You sit in silence. You close your eyes. And even with the world gone dark, you're still there. That strange, glowing awareness that never quite stops watching. And that, maybe, is the truest mystery of all. Close your eyes. Now imagine nothing, not black, not empty space, not silence, Not even you, just nothing. Can you do it? Probably not. Because every time you try, something sneaks in. A flicker of light, a point of view, a thought trying not to be a thought. But here's the kicker. We all talk about nothing like it's real. We say, I saw nothing. There was nothing there. He did it for nothing. But can nothing actually exist? Or is it the biggest metaphysical prank of all? Let's pose the paradox plainly. Why is there something rather than nothing? Philosopher Gottfried Leibniz asked this centuries ago. Not, why is there a universe? But, why anything at all? After all, it's easy to imagine a reality where nothing ever existed. No particles, no time, no laws, no potential for even potential. So why this? Some say it's a brute fact. The universe just is. No explanation needed, like a number that popped into existence without a calculator. Others claim a necessary being brought it into existence, God, or something like God. But then the question simply shifts. Why that being? Why not no God? The paradox refuses to die. Here's where it gets strange. In modern physics, nothing isn't really nothing. Even a vacuum, even empty space, is filled with quantum fluctuations, particles popping in and out of existence. That's called the quantum vacuum. It's buzzing with activity. So if even nothingness is active, is nothing even possible? Some physicists propose that the universe sprang from a quantum fluctuation of nothing, like a burp in the void. But that's still not true nothing. It's more like a weird something wearing a nothing name tag. Let's flip it. Imagine you're a cosmic architect. You can either create a universe or leave nothing. But here's the twist. Nothing can't be chosen. Because for choice to happen, something must exist. So maybe the reason there's something is because nothingness has no power at all. It can't resist. Existence simply leaked in. There's also the idea of mathematical inevitability, that all logically possible worlds must exist somewhere, because if they can, they do. That includes worlds with nothing, but also ones like ours. In this view, existence is the default. It's non-existence that's weird, hard to sustain, like holding your breath forever. Let's add one final layer. When you try to picture nothing, who's doing the picturing? You, a conscious, self-reflective, meaning-seeking being, are asking the question. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe the question only exists because something exists to ask it. And maybe that's all the answer we'll ever get. So here you are, at the end of a spiral through paradox. You've questioned identity, space, reality, mind, and now, existence itself. And you know what? There's no final answer, no bow on the box. But that's what makes it worth pondering. Because once you've seen the cracks, once you've peeked behind the curtain, you can't unthink these things. You walk away different, a little more curious, a little less certain, a little more awake, and maybe, just maybe, that's the whole point.